Top Voice segment on the show where we get you the two biggest voices on the biggest story unfolding this week. Amitendu, Palit joining me from Singapore. Rick Rossow joining me from Washington, D.C. on a story that has rattled equity markets, investors, economies, countries around the world. The Donald Trump tariff bomb that has hit the world. Amitendu, Palit, let me start with you. We now know it's 27 plus 10% for India, but I want to understand from you that what is it that India can do in terms of retaliatory tariffs or any other measure that we can do to protect our trade with the US?
My sense, Gauri, is that unlike 2018, when the steel and aluminium tariffs saw retaliation from India along with a number of other countries, on this occasion, even if there is a retaliation, that retaliation is likely to be basically symbolic and selective. I don't think India will go for a one-on-one tit-for-tat kind of retaliation, and that is because of the fact that one, there is a view that if these relative tariffs are considered, then given the fact that the relative tariff rate on a lot of competitive countries for India has been more than that of India. So in some sense, there is a comparative advantage that India might see in this respect when it comes to exporting to the United States, that its products will be tariffed at a lower rate on several items on which its competitors are also exporting to the US, which are being imposed tariffs at a higher rate. So that could be one reason for India not trying to complicate matters by retaliation, because there's a point over here. If you look at the executive order that has come out from the White House, the Section 4, which is the modification authority, has a provision over there. It's the 4B part of the agreement, which says that if there is a retaliation, then there would be an adjustment to the tariffs, in the sense that a retaliation is also going to invite further retaliation.
Rick, let me then ask you the other side to it. You know, countries around the world are rattled, but so is the American stock market and the American consumer, many would believe. What do you think could be the impact on Trump's core constituency?
I think when we look at a trade agreement is much, much more than tariffs. And I think that this was very clear from the joint statement that India and the US put out during Prime Minister Modi's visit, which mentioned that they're actually going to negotiate a comprehensive trade agreement which covers not only trade in goods and services, but also investment and a large number of other connected trade issues. So I think it's important here from a negotiating perspective to check the fact that all negotiating energies and focus are not going to be consumed just by tariffs. Tariffs could be a way of a give and take approach, in the sense that if there is an offer made by India to the United States of market access by lowering its tariffs in a particular sector, then India would expect something from the United States in return, and that may not necessarily be through a tariff reduction, but through some other kind of market access commitment as well.
Amitendu, stay with me. Amitendu, stay with me, because you were talking about the negotiations aspect of it as to the opportunities it throws up for India. Amitendu, I want you to stay with me, because I was asking Rick Rossow the question earlier, which is that what about the American consumer? It's not like countries around the world are the only ones rattled. So is the American stock market, isn't it?
Well, I think President Trump is playing more to his base than to the American public at large. A lot of the states that he was able to pull in are states that had been former industrial bases in the United States. And for them, economic hardship is already there, and they hadn't really seen a lot of hope. So I think the signal that he picked up from the base, whether that proves to be correct or not, they're hoping that tariffs help save a few factories, maybe bring a new few factories in. And they would rather take that as the upside while suffering some level of pain by increased prices, to kind of be borne by the entire country. So that's the big question, are they going to save enough jobs and factories and bring in some new ones to make up for the economic hardship we all kind of expect? But this definitely wasn't a move that's done for the nation. It's done for a few communities that have helped President Trump win 2 of the last 3 elections.
Right. Okay, Rick, I want to ask you this, that what about the impact? You mentioned that there will be an impact, but what would be that impact in terms of any numbers you can throw right now? Rick?
Well, I've seen numbers saying that the average car is going to cost, $5,000 or $6,000 more than it was before. That the American economic growth rate, which had been 2.5%, 3%, that would probably get slashed in half, if this happens. And of course, they bake in the cake not just the U.S. tariffs, but what are the reactions from other trade partners going to be as they begin imposing punitive tariffs on the United States? So, I think the worst case scenarios kind of depend on how other countries react to this. Some like India, we do think, there may be a potential deal on the table, but a lot of other countries have talked about trying to increase economic pressure on the United States, which is only going to worsen things. So yeah, big stuff is going to be a lot more expensive. Stuff we import is going to be a lot more expensive. And the economy overall is the economic prospects are going to dim. We've already seen a pretty big hit in the stock market today. So far, even the initial reactions economically are pretty rough.
Amitendu Palit and Rick Rossow, thanks much for giving me that update and our viewers as to what is the kind of impact that we are talking about.